And welcome in, everybody, on this Friday, August 13th, 2021. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast brought to you by Britannia Arms, Britain's oldest pub and restaurant in Silicon Valley since 1981. Burgers, fries, fish and chips, sandwiches, Philly cheesesteak, pizza, all the alcohol you want, British alcohol you want,
Fast ale.
gas ale, all the alcohol you want, all the beers you want on tap. Burger sandwiches, the Philly cheesesteak is great. Go see Mike and Tony over in Cupertino. You can get to them on the Britannia Arms website at Britannia Arms. Britannia Arms, there you go. Beers, Philly cheesesteak, pizza, British beers and alcohol as well. Britannia Arms in Cupertino, actually in San Jose. There you have the address, Britannia Arms website, BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. Silicon Valley's oldest British pub and restaurant since 1981. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 3 Eastern on Mondays, noon Eastern on Thursday, and right now 1 o'clock Eastern on Fridays on Facebook and YouTube Live. If you miss any of the podcast live, you can download, subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Just find that logo up in the right corner. Subscribe button, rate and review. It means a lot to us as well, too. We're going to have later picks every day on social media, as much as we can every day on social media. You can get to us on social media on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter. Our email address, mtmarpodcast@gmail.com. Facebook and Instagram, Charlie and I have our own individual pages. I'm Vasi Vadaparty. He's Charlie O. Charlie, how are you on this Friday?
Hey, listen, man, all I had to say, is this heaven or is it make the money and run?
It's make the money and run. Absolutely. Northern California for me, Southern California. All right, let's hit that first because I found it very fascinating last night. We'll get to all the football. We'll get to the rest of the baseball. And, of course, we'll have our pick segment at the end of the show to give you all the weekend picks and all the weekend previews as well as a review of during the week. But let's start off with the game in Iowa yesterday, the Field of Dreams game. Talk about a good way to break the monotony of a regular season in Major League Baseball when you're going day to day and the drudgery of it. To have to go to Iowa and play this game turned out to be everything you wanted in a storybook ending. The Field of Dreams game between the mighty Yankees and the first place White Sox, as Mr. Costner said on the opening last night. What a game it was. The White Sox, if you had the over in the game, you clearly went over because that ball was carrying to right center field. It reminded me of Old Comiskey Park, the way they built it, but the right center field jet stream reminded me of New Yankee Stadium. So there was a lot involved in that. The corn stalks were behind the fence. The bullpen was behind the batter's eye in center field, both bullpens. And, of course, you could see the people walking through the base and people coming in from the set of the other baseball field and the house where Kevin Costner, Amy Madigan, and the young girl, the young daughter whose name I don't know, all lived there during the movie set. But they showed clips of the movie, how they were doing it in the town of Dyersville, Iowa, which is 3,000 then. Apparently only 3,800 in Iowa right now. 8,000 people in the stands for this game. The game started off 1-0 White Sox on an Abreu home run. Aaron Judge hit the first of 2 home runs in the third inning, 3-1 lead. White Sox came back with 4. They had a 5-3 lead. They had a 7-4 lead. Liam Hendricks came in the 9th inning and blew another save. That's been the story for the White Sox this year. 2 2-run home runs in the 9th inning. One by Giancarlo Stanton, one by Aaron Judge. Both happen to look like Ruthian figures in that old-time uniform. 2 2-run home runs, an 8-7 lead. And then in a storybook ending, the first place White Sox, the home team, Tim Anderson, a walk-off 2-run home run to right center field to win it for the White Sox. The corn beyond the fences, the hand-turned scoreboard, the ball was flying out. Joe Buck and John Smoltz were dressed in old-time clothes, as was the pregame show. I think Fox and Major League Baseball hit it out of the park, Charlie.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, that whole setting is just phenomenal. I mean, 8,000 seats, the whole capture of the essence of the Field of Dreams was just phenomenal. I mean, didn't you want to be there? I mean, I was so jealous and envious not to be there. I mean, I know it was miserable. It's Iowa in August. I mean, everybody there was just sweating profusely. The BO had to be terrible because it's Iowa in August, and all I wanted to do was be there because it was such a magnificent setting. One thing they talked about last night on the broadcast, Vasu, which I found immensely interesting was they had a huge wind and thunderstorm there 48 hours before the game,
Right.
and it blew down a lot of the corn stalks, and they had to come in with poles and re align the corn stalks and bring them up by hand. And so they worked just literally night and day to bring the corn stalks back up so it would look good. So I mean, they really did everything they could do to just make that thing pristine, to create an atmosphere there that was just phenomenal. And I mean, we've got an annual event now there in Iowa. I mean, there is no doubt that's, and they'll figure out other ways to use it. I just hope they won't overuse it. Sometimes baseball finds something and then they'll just overuse it. And I don't want it to be, every team plays an interleague game there or something. I mean, I want it to be
once a year. I think once a year is good. I think the commissioner already agreed to come back next year for 2022. He didn't commit to anything past that, but you got to think after last night's production, Fox, I'm a little biased to Fox and my employer, but they did a great job with the pregame show. They did a great job. If you hadn't had a chance to see the pregame show, check it out. Kevin Burkhardt, Alex Rodriguez, Frank Thomas, and David Ortiz all were great. Old-time costumes, old-time wear from that time and period of baseball in Iowa. It was unbelievable to just watch the game. The game itself was great, but all the accoutrements and all the accessories that went around it. Kevin Costner was tremendous. He was on the pregame show. He was in the booth for 2 innings with Joe and John as well. But having a catch on the field with his son, you can see all the people having catches and playing ball on the other field while the Major League Baseball is going on. Nowhere else we see anything like that. The drone kept going back and forth everywhere around to show all the things that were going on. The cameraman found the balls in the corn stalks of the home run baseballs. Jose Abreu hit a home run to open the game 1-0. He must have been smiling ear to ear from that. Anyway, that point. Get it, Charlie? See what I did there?
I did, and I was just going to ignore it. I said I'm just going to let it slide on by. Let everybody pick it up.
But anyway, it was a great event. Tim Anderson, the yesterday's walk-off home run, the 15th time a White Sox player has walked off the Yankees in the history of their series. By the way, the first one, I don't know if you saw it on SportsCenter or on ESPN last night. The first walk-off by a White Sox player against a Yankees player. How perfect is this? And it's not heaven, but it was perfect. It was Joe Jackson It was Joe Jackson, probably not in 19, way back before that walked off the Yankees the first time. I think it was 1915, but he was the first one.
1919. 1919.
Oh, it was 1919. Okay.
It was the year of the Black Sox.
1919, the first walk-off by shoeless Joe Jackson against the Yankees, and Tim Anderson does it 102 years later. How perfect is that ending for the White Sox to come back and win against the Yankees and keep their 11.5 game lead in the standings, 12 up in the loss column over now the Detroit Tigers, who are in second place over the Cleveland Indians right now. Amazing but true. And the White Sox have an 11.5 game lead. They're 12 up on the Tigers, 10 up on the Indians in the loss column. So a very interesting game. Yankees didn't help themselves last night as well, too. All right, let's move on to football here. We'll get to all the baseball in a little bit. A couple of preseason games last night to open the season. The Pittsburgh Steelers, actually, this is their second game of the preseason. They win 24-16. Just still can't get over Iowa, but we're going to move on to NFL. Otherwise, we could talk about Iowa all week. 24-16. Pittsburgh wins over the Washington football team. Haskins came in for Pittsburgh, the third-string quarterback, threw for 161 yards, 1 touchdown. Pittsburgh beat Philadelphia. New England beat the Washington football team 22-13. A 91-yard run by Stevenson at the end of the game gave that separation. Probably helped some wagerers who might have had a line on the game. Both teams, Philadelphia was favored by 1 against Pittsburgh. New England was favored by 1 over Washington. The New England game stayed under. The Pittsburgh game went over. Mac Jones made his NFL debut, 87 yards passing. And then Ramondre Stevenson, when Washington started to call timeouts, Bill Belichick ran plays instead of going into victory formation because he couldn't believe that they were calling timeouts. And so they ran off a 91-yard play. Ramondre Stevenson did. 91 yards for the touchdown. And the Patriots go on 22-13. Belichick and Tomlin 1-0 in the preseason. More games tonight. We're going to have 10 games tonight. 10 games tonight as we get to the lines right here. The NFL on Friday, 10 games tonight. These are the lines for tonight. Atlanta -1 over Tennessee, 38 the total. Detroit -1 over Buffalo, 36.5 is the total. And then Arizona -2 against Dallas at home, 38 the total. Saturday's games, there's 10 games on Saturday. We'll get to the Saturday games in a second, but back to today and yesterday. Charlie, your thoughts yesterday and on today's games as well?
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting to see Mac Jones for the first time getting a chance to see how he was going to perform. The line of the night was when Chase Young came in for the big sack, and and the response was, "He's smaller than I thought he was." that was just hilarious. I love that one. But Jones averaged 7 yards per release on his passes, so that's not bad to get started. He looked a little rough in a few places. His receivers let him down a couple of times on some pretty nice longer passes down the field. So I mean, it was a pretty nice start for him. The other thing that I came away with from that Pittsburgh game is that Haskins looked pretty good, and they're talking a lot about maybe he's going to be the backup, and that I'm not over surprised by that. I think he's a pretty good quarterback, so he may be the backup there. I think the one thing that people are getting carried away with is they keep saying, well, he could be the backup this year and he could be Big Ben's replacement next year. I don't know that he's a number one quarterback. I still have grave questions about that. And I think that if Ben is gone, they are going to be looking for a number one via trade, via draft. Somehow, I just don't know that Haskins is going to be a number one quarterback.
Not really so much Haskins, but they also have Mason Rudolph and Joshua Dobbs, who's been in the system now for 4 years from the University of Tennessee. Roethlisberger did not play yesterday. Look for him to play next week, but Haskins did look well. Mason Rudolph has had game experience. He's done well with them as well. And Joshua Dobbs, again, the backup quarterback. It's going to be a fight for number 3, I believe. I still think Mason Rudolph has a line on the number 2 quarterback there. As far as New England, Cam Newton, Mac Jones, that's a controversy that's going to go on through all of spring, through all of training camp right now. The competition between Newton, who was awful last year in terms of his passing skill, and we know that he's not a very good passer, and he didn't have very good protection, and he's getting older, so he can't rely on his legs as much. But Mac Jones, a pure passer, I know he probably had a better line at Alabama than Cam Newton did at New England last year. So the fact is that it's too early to tell between Jones and Cam Newton, but I know Bill Belichick really likes Mac Jones, and I think he fits that system pretty well for them, and it'll be interesting to see. And then Washington, Taylor Heineke, probably going to be the starting quarterback after Alex Smith retired. He didn't play very much yesterday, and they had their guys come in. Steven Montez out of Colorado State played well for Washington, and they're going to have to establish a running game. Their defense is already very good. Their front four is really good, and they just need some secondary help to make sure that they can compete again in the NFC East. The NFC East was very bad last year, so any improvement by anybody is going to make it really good as far as we go. All right, the lines for today, as we said, Atlanta and Tennessee going tonight, Detroit, Buffalo, Arizona, Dallas. What teams interest you? Forget the game so much tonight. We're not going to see a lot of the main guys tonight, but what teams out of these 6 teams right here, Charlie, interest you going into 2021?
Well, I'm going into 2021. I'm interested to see if Tennessee can continue growth and develop. I mean, they're always a fascinating story. It seems like they're always knocking at the door, and I want to see if they can deliver. I'm always looking for a little more from them. I'm interested to see whether they can deliver that. I think Detroit is going to be the fun story of the season. A coach who drinks 80 ounces of coffee every day, but beyond that, is Goff being released from LA hell? Is that going to be a good thing for him? Is being in a place where he might be appreciated, a place where he gets a new start, is that going to be fun for him? And then also Buffalo, now they've got the longer term. Allen's got his new contract, so the contract controversy is behind them. They've got that done. and can they now build on what they've had and make that next step as well? And I think it's potential that they can. And then the thing that we're going to have to watch is Dallas. I think this is a big make or break year for Dallas. They gave Prescott the money, but now we got to find out whether the health is there. I mean, I'm not worried about Dallas losing money because obviously they bought big insurance on him. So, Jerry's not going to lose any money. He's not going to have to sell the yacht. Don't get worried. That's not going to be a problem. But the key question is will Dak's health be there? Will he be able to throw the football? And I hope he can. I'm a wagering guy. I'm a reporter. Sure, I have teams that I root for, but I'm more neutral than what you think. And I like to see players play well. And my hope is he'll play well and create competitive football. So that story is really on my radar, and I'll be watching it very closely throughout the year.
Check it out tonight. 2 games live on NFL Network. They'll replay. They're going to play all 63 preseason games this year on the NFL Network. They're all through the middle of the night. I've already recorded the first 2. Got a little bit to watch yesterday. I will watch tonight as well in the middle of baseball duties as we get going with the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasivada Party. Charlie O here. We are sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, 1087 South De Anza Boulevard, San Jose, California, 252-7262. You can check out their menu, check out their website, BritanniaArmsDeAnza.com. You can get the burgers any way you want it, sandwiches including the Philly cheesesteak, pizzas, British beers, and alcohol, all available. Full bar right there as well, too.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips are the big one. Absolutely. The fish and chips are the big thing there. Go in there and see Mike Ellenberg, Tony Cage, the staff. Make sure if you're new to the place, make sure you mention the Make the Money and Run podcast is where you heard it as well. All right, we're going to move on to Saturday's games here. Any interest in this? Let's talk about the teams itself. But 10 games to go through. We'll run them out. You can see them all there. My Bears go off first tomorrow. They're the only game in town at 10 a.m. West Coast time. They've got the Dolphins at home, 35.5. The Broncos at Minnesota, Baltimore, New Orleans, Jacksonville, Cleveland, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati. The Jets and Giants will play each other in Giant Stadium. Actually, what's the name of the Giant Stadium? I don't care. They're not our sponsor. San Francisco,
MetLife.
Doesn't matter. They're not our sponsors. San Francisco, Kansas City. Nobody's going to play in that game, although it is interesting. A lot of talk this week about the Chiefs coming into town, obviously from the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. The Raiders in their stadium, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. They've got the Seahawks. And then the Chargers and the Rams. It is the home of the Rams, by the way. The Chargers are renters. That's an inside joke. We'll explain that to you at some point. But it is the Rams that are the home team. They are a 3.5-point underdog. I'll tell you, Charlie, looking at the schedule, obviously I have an interest in the Bears. I'm a Bears fan. I'm interested to see the AFC West between Denver, the Raiders, and the Denver's Raiders, Kansas City, and the Chargers. I'm very interested in the Chargers because I think Justin Herbert is a guy that obviously came in by fluke circumstances. He came in with after the injury to Tyrod Taylor that he couldn't even go in game 1, and he turned out to be the rookie of the year. I loved him at Oregon. I think their defense is better, and I think they can give Kansas City a tough game. In fact, I think they might be able to beat Kansas City this year. And if they get any defense and they can stop Patrick Mahomes a little bit, they may have a chance to go because Justin Herbert is just a smart kid. I watched every game of his at Oregon, and I think he's got the capability, the mentality. Obviously, he's got the physical tools. We all saw that for 16 weeks last year and a couple preseason games last year. But what do you think about what you see on Saturday as far as any of these games going on?
Well, it's always interesting. It'll be interesting to see Fields make his debut in Chicago. We're all curious to see how that's going to go. I mean, we're not going to be able to make any real judgment there, but that it'll be fun to see him coming out a little bit there and find out what's going on. So that'll be fun. Everybody's watching New Orleans because, who's going to be the quarterback? Well, I'm going to already tell you who's going to be the quarterback in New Orleans. Both of them. Okay, we already know that. They're going to use both of them. Okay, stop it. Okay, they're going to use them situationally. And why wouldn't you? You got 2 guys with 2 diverse skills that got along last year doing that, and you can get away with it again this year. So use them that way. Jacksonville, come on, stop the stop the thing about, oh, we've got a quarterback controversy going on in Jacksonville. No, you don't. Stop it. That's not even interested. The Jets and the Giants. The Giants. Who cares about the Jets? It'll be interesting to see. New quarterback, new coach. We'll watch that. I mean, they're still going to finish last, but hopefully it'll be a little more interesting. Kansas City and San Francisco. Trey Lance coming out. I don't know who the backups are in Kansas City. Nobody cares.
Chad Henne. Chad Henne's going to get a lot of action on Saturday.
Oh, okay. I'm thrilled. And then at the Raiders. Do the Raiders have anybody?
Yeah, I mean, they've got David Carr. They got Derek Carr, not David Carr. They've got Derek Carr.
See, there you go.
Need to work on that stuff.
You just proved my point. Okay, you just proved my point. The Raiders are absolutely irrelevant even before the first preseason game. They really are. They didn't do squat in the offseason. They've got a coach that they're overpaying. They're living on the fact that they've got a new stadium in Las Vegas. Their owner is just waiting to get bought out by some billionaire cartel because now he's got something that he can really sell. And hey, you know what? I don't blame him. He's going to be able to bank a huge payday, and God bless him. He's going to live well. But they're irrelevant, so don't even worry about it. And I'm sorry, Raiders fans, but that's just the way it's going to be. Chargers. It'll be interesting, but don't you get worried about the fact that it's a new system with a new coach? I always get worried when it's a new coach. I love the quarterback, but new coach, I always get a little worried there. And the Rams, it's a quarterback change. And I'm not that thrilled about their new quarterback. I didn't like him in Detroit, and I don't like him in Los Angeles. Well, it'll be interesting. I'm going to watch it because I want to see what he can do. But I think it's the same guy in Southern California as he was in Michigan. So they're not high on my list right now.
Interesting games for me. Interesting teams to watch from this Saturday schedule. Like I said, the Bears, of course, for me. The Baltimore Ravens, I want to see what the development is for Lamar Jackson now in terms of a throwing quarterback because the NFL is fast and you can't outrun everybody as you get older. The New Orleans situation is interesting. Trevor Lawrence, obviously the first pick. Cleveland got all the way to the championship game. They'll be interested in 2021. I want to see how well Joe Burrow comes back from his injury from last year.
Yes.
Zach Wilson, I really like Zach Wilson a lot. I really, if I was the 49ers, I know they got Trey Lance, and Trey Lance is Kyle Shanahan's guy, but he was seriously considering Matthew Stafford to replace Garoppolo this year, and that was one of the ideas. The Raiders, they'll be interested. They're in Vegas. They're going to have fans in front of them. Seattle, if they get their defense back and they get through some of their issues, be good. Brandon Staley, the new coach, the old quarterbacks coach for the Rams, he's with the Chargers now, and I think he can develop Herbert a little bit more. And their defense was actually pretty good last year. They've got Bosa on the front line, Melvin Ingram. They're going to be pretty good, and I think they can challenge in the AFC West. And I like Matthew Stafford a lot. I'm glad he's out of the NFC North. He doesn't have the running game now. Cam Akers hurt for the entire year, so they're going to have to go back to Henderson, and he's going to have to rely on that short passing game. Their defense a lot better than what Detroit's defense has, so maybe he won't have to be on the field as much and throw the ball a lot more. So I'm actually interested to see.
Better than Detroit's defense.
Yeah, well, my neighbors in my court here are better defensively than Detroit is. So we'll see. So an interesting Saturday slate of teams. Sunday, Indianapolis, Carolina, the only game on the board. We talked about Indianapolis yesterday with Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson, the all-pro guard, looking like they're going to make it back for week one, Charlie. And then Carolina, they traded for Sam Darnold. They still have McCaffrey. Their defense was improved last year. Matt Rule, coming from the college ranks, had a little bit to learn, but they were near 500. And Carolina could be a problem in the NFC South for Tampa Bay and for New Orleans because we still don't know where New Orleans is, as you just referred to. But Tampa Bay, the favorite so far to win the Super Bowl they're second at plus 625 behind Kansas City, but they're number one in the NFC to take the conference championship. But I am interested to see how Carolina is going to play, especially if McCaffrey's healthy and how Darnold runs a play action system with a back like McCaffrey who can catch the ball as well as run the ball, Charlie.
Well, Carolina right now is my sleeper of the season because I agree with you. I think Darnold has been released from hell and is now going to be in a situation. First of all, he's out of the New York bright lights. He's away from that chaos. He's in a place where they love their football team, not just whether they're winning or losing. They just love their football team. And I think that will be a great positive place for him. He's got McCaffrey. He's got a good team around him. And I think it'll be a good positive atmosphere for him, for a guy who's talented, who needs a good positive place. And I think once he gets a taste of some positivity around him, I think then, I mean, he's a skilled guy. We know he's a skilled guy. And I think he can start to bring that out. And I think they're going to be a much more effective team than people are giving them credit for in the preseason. Indianapolis, if Wentz is back, I still have reservations because it seems like he's coming back awfully quick. But it may be the injury wasn't as bad as first reported. And, hey, we hope that's true. I mean, we never want guys to be injured badly. That's never the hope. And hey, listen, if your team's in that division and you're hoping the guy was hurt bad enough not to be back, shame on you. I mean, that's not what it's about. This football and competition is about playing against the best competition. And if you want your team to lose because somebody else's great player is down, you don't deserve to have a winning team. I mean, your team needs to win because they're going up against the best of the best. And, so I hope I'm not a big Colts fan, but I am a Wentz fan because he was a great story coming out of an FBS school, and he got all the spotlight and everything else. And then he went to Philadelphia. Poor guy went to Philadelphia and not for the Philadelphia fans, but to an organization that was a mess. And I think he was
an MVP candidate, and then he got hurt, and then Foles took him to the Super Bowl. I don't know if he would have been able to take him to the Super Bowl as a rookie player, but he was there and he got them to the point where they were 11-2 before he got hurt against the Rams in that week. So,
I'd like to see him. I'd like to see a redemption story there is what I'd like to see, because I love redemption stories. And I'd like to see that be the case for him.
It'll be interesting because Indianapolis, one of the top teams in the AFC South, they were quarterback play away from they were having good quarterback play away from winning that division from Tennessee. And their defense is really good. Their running game is really good. They've got some talented receivers there as well, too. All right. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Phil Joyner checking in on us. He's a big Cowboys fan after watching last week. DiNucci, sidearm DiNucci. I remember him from last year coming in for Prescott. Take number 2, the number 2 quarterback position, Gilbert or Rush, even though DiNucci is behind Prescott officially on the depth chart. Charlie, any idea on Gilbert or Rush right now?
No.
Phil, wait for week 2 and week 3.
Yeah.
Phil, wait for week 2 and week 3 to see how they're going to go about it. We will see how it goes from there as well. All right, the NFL, I'm interested to see how the preseason for week 1 goes. Obviously, preseason week 2 next week will give us a lot more insight on where we go. We are here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays on Facebook and YouTube Live. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. They are at 1087 South Dienza Boulevard, San Jose, California, 408-252-7262. BritanniaArmsDienza.com as well. You can get in there and get all their burgers any way you want it, sandwiches, including that great Philly cheesesteak, pizzas, all the British beers and alcohol you want. And, of course, you can't forget about the fish and chips. And I forgot to mention I've had it a few times, the shepherd pie as well there, too. Go into Cupertino. Yeah,
exactly. Now I'm hungry.
Go in there and see Mike and Tommy, the staff. Tell them you heard about the Britannia Arms Cupertino. If you're new to it, tell them you heard it on the Make the Money and Run podcast with Vasi Vadaparty and Charlie O. All right, in 30 seconds, we're going to come back and give you the rest of the baseball. We talked about the Field of Dreams. We'll give you all the ramifications, the review of the week, and the preview of the weekend. We're in August right now, 6 weeks away from the end of the regular season. Back with all the baseball and more. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Friday, August 13th, 2021. Vasi Vadaparty, Charlie O with you here. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and YouTube, Stephanie and Phil. We see you there as well, too. Back in 30 with all the baseball news. And welcome back. Vasu Vadaparty, Charlie O with you on the Make the Money and Run podcast for August 13th, 2021. We're 6 weeks away from Major League Baseball. Preseason NFL has started in week 2. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. You can catch us on social media as well, too. You can get us on social media at mtmarpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram right now. We'll also have later picks for the day at 6 Eastern, both online as well. You can catch us anywhere on Facebook and Instagram. Send us a note. Ask us any questions about your NFL teams, your Major League Baseball teams as well, too. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Britannia Arms burgers any way you want it. Sandwiches, including the Philly cheesesteak, British beers and alcohol, full alcohol bar there, fish and chips, and, of course, the shepherd's pie. Very good as well. You can get to them at Britannia Arms in Cupertino at 1087 South De Anza Boulevard. Britannia Arms, DeAnza.com. All right, Charlie, as we get to it, the baseball scenarios that we have going on now for the next 6 weeks are going to be interesting as I get this thing set up on the ticker here for the lines. One game not on the board yet. That's the Atlanta-Washington game. The Chicago-New York game that played the Field of Dream game yesterday. They have a day off to go back to Chicago this week. So they are two teams that are going to be off. And then Atlanta, Washington does not have a line. Please check back with us by 6 Eastern. If we have a pick on the game, and we'll give you the updated line as well by 6 o'clock Eastern. The what?
Just take Atlanta.
Just take Atlanta. Well, we'll see about that. We'll see. We'll see about that.
I'm sorry.
Atlanta, Washington.
Right. We gotta see what's there.
No kidding. New York, Chicago off Friday after playing the Field of Dream games. And in Chicago back on Saturday. Shout out to Tony La Russa, was not there yesterday as well too. But a very interesting scenario that happened in Iowa. We talked about it. If you missed any of it, you can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Let's go to the American League notes that we have right now for it. Look at the Tampa Bay Rays. They come back. They get beat by 20. They gave up a 20 spot 2 days ago on Wednesday. They come back and beat up on Tanner Houck and the Red Sox. They're 6 up in the East on Boston right now after an 8-1 victory yesterday. Tampa Bay got great production, great pitching. Their bullpen is outstanding. Right now, they're the first team to 70 wins, Charlie, and they're as good as anybody in the American League. Heck, they might be as good as anybody in baseball right now. Records-wise, it doesn't say it, but don't sleep on Tampa Bay. Just because you don't know who anybody is on that team does not mean that they're not good. And Kevin Cash doing another outstanding job for the Tampa Bay Rays, Charlie.
Yeah, Tampa Bay reminds me a lot of the Oakland A's. They play in the shadows. They always call the A's a small market team. They're not. They play in the Bay Area, but they become a small market team because they play in the giant shadow of the Giants. And so nobody knows who they are usually. Tampa Bay is in a smaller market. People don't know them because they don't see them. But you're absolutely right. Just because you don't know their household names, do not sleep on that organization. They are phenomenal. They grow their own players, and then they have made this year some very, very interesting
acquisitions.
Thank you. It just went away right there. Not enough. And they have made some ads that have really paid off, and they're a powerhouse right now. And pitching wise, I'm telling you, they don't have a 25-man roster. They really have a 53-man roster, and they just don't tell anybody because they roll pitchers out there that we've never heard of. They do those bullpen games, and they have 17 people pitch, and we don't know who they are, and we don't know where they come from. They have them pitch, and we never see them again. But they just win in all kinds of ways, and you can never sleep on them because they can be down going into the bottom of the ninth, and they just keep scrapping, and they win. They're phenomenal. They're fun to watch. If you have one of the packages where you can see out of market games, watch these guys. They're fun.
No doubt about it. The Tampa Bay Rays 6 up in the East. They're 7 up on the Yankees and Toronto. Yankees lost yesterday in Iowa. We said Toronto gets shut out by Shohei Ohtani last night. Shut down, I should say. They didn't get shut out. 6-2. The Angels win We talked about it yesterday. Jose Barrios, the new acquisition for the Toronto Blue Jays, as you see the American League lines going across the bottom for today's games. But we talked about it. We were a little surprised that Ohtani was 6-1. His ERA at home was 1.74 going into the game. He did give up 2 runs yesterday, but the ERA is still there. He's 7-1 on the year. He's as good as any pitcher right now going in the American League. And the Angels offense, their bats got going a little bit off a really good pitcher in Jose Barrios last night, and they beat Toronto 6-2. Toronto did not help themselves by not winning, but we called it yesterday in terms of an underdog for the Angels at home, Charlie. And how about Ohtani? And not only did he get out of the first inning, he led off the game with a double. He didn't score in the first inning, but then went back out and pitched 6 more innings, especially not having a chance to rest between running the bases and going back on the mound. He's just a wonder. And speaking of Iowa and the Ruthian statues and all that, I mean, this is Babe Ruth, the second generation of it, Shohei Ohtani. What a game he pitched last night for 7 innings for the Angels.
You know, Vasu, you're very seldom going to hear me make the statement that I'm going to make right now. It is a tragedy. It is a tragedy that Ohtani is not a member of the Dodgers or the Yankees. And I really mean this for him. No slight to the Angels fans, but because he's in an organization that will not build up a team. I mean, he's got Mike Trout with him. Now I know Trout's on the IL right now, but he's got Mike Trout, who until now has been the best player in baseball. And unfortunately, Ohtani may be well surpassing him because of the two-way skills, but nobody knows who he is because he's been playing there in Anaheim and they won't put a team around him. And now you've got Ohtani, who is just blowing my mind. I've been watching baseball since consciously since 1957, and I've never seen anything like this. It is just absolutely mind-blowing. And people aren't getting to see him. I mean, they see highlights, people talk about him, but you're really not getting to see him because who's going to nationally televise an Angels game? Nobody, because they're not going to draw. Even with the name Ohtani, they're not going to draw on television. They're going to televise a Dodgers game. They're going to televise a Yankees game. And I feel really, really badly about the fact that this guy is stuck on a team and in an organization that is not going to do him right. Their ownership, their management is horrible. And I'm distraught. I mean that sincerely. I hate to see a guy that is beyond a generational talent. I mean, this guy is a once in a lifetime talent. I mean, when we say Ruthian, folks, we're not kidding around here. This is not a joke. I mean, this guy, you look, baseball's about stats. Baseball's about history. Start looking back. I mean, it's easy to do. It's easy to do with the internet. This has not happened since Ruth. And to have him be in this baseball purgatory is tragic.
No doubt about it. And the Angels in the last 11 years, they had Mike Trout since 2011, have had Albert Pujols until this year when they released him. And now they've had Ohtani the last 3 years. They've only made the playoffs once in Mike Trout's years, Albert Pujols years. They got swept out by the Royals in 2015, and Mike Trout struck out 100 times in that division series. Unfortunately, that's the only time they made the playoffs. But he's there, and Ohtani's there. If they can build any pitching or any bullpen around him, they can get games like they did last night against a team like Toronto that ended up showing that they can beat good teams. By the way, and they are going to host the Houston Astros tonight, so that'll get some play a little bit. And the Toronto Blue Jays still fighting it out in the wild card, and the American League East, they go up to Seattle as well. You can see the lines at the bottom as well. All right, moving on. How about the Oakland A's? 2 games back in the loss column, 1.5 games back in the standings. They're 8 of their last 10. They've won 7 in a row. They just got done sweeping the Cleveland Indians. They're plus 82 in run differential. They lead the wild card by 2 games over Boston. They're the first wild card spot after Boston lost yesterday. They picked up a game on Boston, and they're ahead of the teams that are out of the second spot right now. They scored 17 runs yesterday, Charlie, on the Cleveland Indians. And we know they have a good offense. We know they're a solid team all around. Houston right now is better, but I don't know how much better they are because the A's are red hot, and the acquisition of Starling Marte has proved to be beneficial for the Oakland A's, Charlie.
Boy, has that acquisition been, 10 times better than anybody thought. I mean, his multi-hit game situation is phenomenal. He's just blossomed, being in the American League and being with the A's. I mean, it's just phenomenal what that acquisition has done for the A's. And I have to tell you, Vasu,
He has 30 stolen bases too, by the way.
yes, which is also, the A's kill me because they talk about sabermetrics and then they do things like get guys who steal bases. I don't know. You sometimes you can't figure them out because they'll play straight sabermetrics and then they'll do things like get guys who steal bases. So don't try to figure them out all the time. But I'm looking right now, they're a game and a half back of Houston. They've won 7 in a row. Now I know they own the wild card spot right now, but I'll tell you, if I'm Houston, I'm feeling hot breath on the back of my neck because these guys aren't going away. And if Houston has a little bad streak at all, and that's possible. I mean, we got 6 weeks that happens. Oakland could. I'm not saying they will, but they could wind up winning the division. I think it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun because I think it's going to be neck and neck right down to the end of the season. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
I can't tell whose bullpen is better between the Astros and the A's right now. They're both mediocre, although Houston did make the trades for Graveman and Yimi Garcia from the Marlins. Garcia's only blown 1 save while he was with the Marlins. Kendall Graveman has been outstanding with Seattle, and then Seattle goes and trades him. The A's right now on a 7-game losing streak. Be careful in the wagering crowd. They have a tough time in Texas with the Rangers. They're playing the Rangers this weekend. And the Astros have the Angels, as we said. Seattle will host Toronto. They're 4 games back in the wild card right now. Seattle on a 2-game winning streak after beating the Rangers the last 2 nights. The Angels kind of on the edge there, 7 games back in the wild card. It'll be really interesting to see. And, of course, Tampa Bay, Chicago, and Houston. Tampa Bay at 70 wins. The White Sox and Astros both at 68 wins in the American League. All right, you see the American League lines out there as well. We'll get to the National League lines in a second right now. But as we hit the National League, where is the National League lines? Oh, there we go. There we are. National League notes that we have. Philadelphia finally got a game from LA in the series, a 2-1 game. Dodgers put a lot of pressure on that Philly bullpen. Ian Kennedy has come in to help. Philadelphia in first place right now. They are tied with the Mets in the loss column. Both have 55 losses. The Braves got waxed by Cincinnati yesterday. They are 1 game back. The Washington Nationals, Miami bring up the rear in the East. The Mets swept the doubleheader against Washington yesterday. We mentioned Atlanta got beat up by Cincinnati yesterday as well. And the Milwaukee Brewers in the National League Central, they put up 17 runs. So much for that under for me yesterday. Brandon Woodruff, Kyle Hendricks did not have the feel of the ball. It must have been hot and sticky in Chicago. His balls were up and Milwaukee pounced on him. They can be that kind of offense if they get the hitting. They have not hit consistently all year. Their pitching has been really good. In fact, Woodruff couldn't get control of the ball. He got lifted after 3 innings yesterday as well, too. So Woodruff and Hendricks did not materialize like we thought it would yesterday in terms of even the over-under or in terms of it being a close game, 17-6 for Milwaukee right now. And then the Giants lead now by 5 after a 7-0 victory. I had them yesterday, 188 behind 188 on the money line yesterday for Logan Webb, who's come out to be he might be the second best starter on that team. And right now he's probably right there with Gausman in terms of rotation. Their bullpen good. I added a bet, which I don't know if anybody saw in the post. I added a bet on the over 7.5 yesterday in the Giants Rockies. It was 7-0 after the 4th inning and donuts the rest of the way. That was a loser on that. 7-0 on the over 7.5 after 4 innings, and nothing came of it the rest of the way. Colorado's offense is really bad. I'm sorry, I have a little partiality to the McMahon family. I know the McMahon family really well, but unfortunately their offense is not very good. They are 38-21 at home, better than the Dodgers with home records, but they cannot do a thing on the road. They've only won 13 games on the road for the Colorado Rockies, and it showed last night. Logan Webb shut them down. He was about 5 inches away from hitting a grand slam as well, too. All right, Charlie, we look at the National League right now. Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta. 1 game separates those 3 teams. Milwaukee has an 8-game lead on Cincinnati. We'll get to the wild card in a second. And then San Francisco now 5 up on the Dodgers. The Dodgers have the New York Mets this weekend. The Giants have the Rockies continued. And the Padres are still in Arizona. By the way, the Padres got beat by Arizona yesterday, and they're going up with Blake Snell today against Madison Bumgarner. See that on the lines coming across as well from there. So what do you think about the National League right now as we get to 6 weeks left to go?
Well, first of all, my hat's off to Pete Alonso, because Pete Alonso, the day before on Wednesday, said to the Mets fans, look, calm down. Things happen. It's life. Everything's going to be okay. Smile. It's great. And then what does he do? Second game yesterday, it's a walk-off home run. I just loved it. It was great.
Yeah, but they blew a 3-run lead to get to that walk-off home run.
I know. But Mr. Optimist, hey, everything's going to be okay. Just Mr. Loose as a goose, then it's a walk-off home run. Come on. You got to love it. It's great. That's the way baseball is supposed to go. It's great. But, hey, that that National League East looks like it's going to be fun right down to the end. And what's going to make it fun is that it's going to take the winner there is probably going to be the only representative out of the East that's going to make the playoffs.
I'm not so sure about that, Charlie. I don't want to disagree with you. I know San Diego's there, but right now they're only 3 up on the Reds in the wild card. And as I look at the wild card standings, they're 3 up on the Reds right now. The Reds got the victory yesterday. Padres have lost 2 in a row. They lost the afternoon game to Miami. They lost yesterday to Arizona. The Mets are 4 back in the wild card, and the Braves are 5 back. The Cardinals are still 5 back. Cardinals have Kansas City in the interleague game right here, as you see on the ticker right there. And the Cardinals, not only are they only 5 back in the interleague, in the wild card race right now, they're not going to catch the Brewers. They're 11 back in that division. They get Jack Flaherty back in the rotation tonight. He's going up against the Kansas City Royals tonight. 8-1 Jack Flaherty going up against the Royals in the Show Me State rivalry going up tonight for the Cardinals and the Royals.
Okay, but you didn't listen to me. I said the East. I think that if the San Diego doesn't make it, that the representative for the wild card will come out of the Central. Okay, so there you go.
Okay.
You still have to win in the East to make it.
I'm just fired up to see Jack Flaherty pitch. He's one of my favorite guys to pitch right now.
So sure, there could be somebody out of the East, but I think that I'm amazed, but I'm looking at right now that if San Diego hiccups, there's actually an outside shot that the Reds could be in the wild card. And I mean, the way they were going, I'm going, where I was, and hey, look at the cup I'm drinking out of, folks. I'm a Reds fan, and I'm going, well, that's over. And now all of a sudden I'm going, could they really make the wild card? There's a chance. There's a chance. I'm not believing it yet because I'm a longtime Reds fan, and they break my heart every year. But there's a chance. And San Diego, some guy I know really well has been telling me since April that the Padres are pretenders, and I'm starting to believe him.
They sound to be. I don't know that guy. I don't know who that guy is, but that guy seems pretty smart. But the fact is that they seem to me like they're going to be desperate in order to have to bring up Tatis back from injury and maybe risk him a little bit by putting him in the outfield, taking the bats away from Tommy Pham and Will Myers and Grisham, who they've already got a good outfield with, to put him in center field. A little desperation maybe because they've spent the money on Machado and Tatis to try and get a division instead of a 1-game wild card play as well. So lots of things going on in the wild card. When we come back in 30 seconds, we're going to have our unsponsored world famous pick segment. We are sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, 1087 South De Anza Boulevard, San Jose, 408-252-7262. You can get on their website, BritanniaArmsDeAnza.com. Burgers and fries and fish and chips and full alcohol bar. Philly cheesesteak is great. The pizzas are great. Mike Ellenberg, Tommy Cage right there in Cupertino. Go in there, and you heard the Britannia Arms of Cupertino on the Make the Money and Run podcast. When we come back in 30 seconds, we'll have the games for today and for the weekend and preview the games for the baseball weekend as well. We already did the NFL, and then we'll have our pick segment in the last 10 minutes. Back in 30, this is the Make the Money and Run podcast for August 13, 2021. Vasi Vada Party. Charlie O here with you. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast for Friday, August 13th, 2021. Sivada Party Charlie O here. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, Facebook and YouTube Live. We appreciate everybody on Facebook right now. Stephanie and Frank and Phil for chiming in. Phil Joyner gave us a couple of comments as well, too. Keep checking our social media pages. By 6 Eastern, we'll have later picks, if any. There's still one game not on the board, the Atlanta Braves and the Washington Nationals. We'll get to the games in a second, but you can reach us on Facebook and Twitter and email us anything you want to talk about, mtmarpodcast@gmail.com. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. BritanniaArmsDeanza.com is where you can find them on the website. Make sure you get in there. Make sure you say you heard the Britannia Arms Cupertino from the Make the Money and Run podcast as well, too. All right, let's get to the games itself here a little bit, Charlie. Let's start with the National League games a little bit right here just to see what's going on as we go to it. The Philadelphia Phillies have Zach Wheeler going tonight against Tyler Mahle for the Reds. We talked about the Reds and how well they're playing right now in terms of the wild card scenario. They're 8 games back in the Central, maybe a little too much to overcome. But Zach Wheeler, what a game he had last week on Roy Halladay Day last week against the Mets. They're in first place. They're tied for first place. He's 158, which seems kind of low. I know the Phillies have struggled, and their bullpen's still a question mark. But they're going up against the Reds tonight, who are red hot. Milwaukee 205, Brett Anderson and Mitch Keller at Pittsburgh. Miami with Jesus Luzardo and Azalea going for the Cubs tonight in Miami. The Dodgers, Julio Urias, tied for the Major League lead and wins with 13 wins against Tyler McGill. Not Tyler, Tyler McGill of the New York Mets. The Mets tied for first in the East, as we said. Dodgers 5 back of the Giants. What are you looking at in the National League, the first part of the National League schedule right here?
Well, I'm going to be fascinated to watch that Reds-Phillies game. I mean, I think that's going to be a fun game there. I'm also going to be interested to watch that Dodgers-Mets contest. You know, the Mets figure in to the West very heavily because I think, if I remembered right,
they come into San Francisco next week.
Yeah, they wind up with 13 games down the stretch between the Dodgers and the Giants. So how in the world that figures, if you can ever figure out MLB scheduling, please call me, because then I'm going to have you pick stocks for me. But anyway, if I remember the number right, I think it's 13 games they wind up playing between those two teams over the stretch coming down the last 6 weeks. So they're going to play in here. So how those teams play against the Mets is going to be important, and they also could determine the Mets' future in the East. So that I'm really interested to watch that series. And of course, the Dodgers played so well against Philly. I mean, it's all about winning series. I don't care about sweeps. I mean, sweeps are nice, but statistically, that's not really what you're caring about. You're really caring about winning series. The Dodgers won the series 2-1, and that's what they're going to be looking for in New York. They're going to want to win the series. And the way they're playing, they could carry that.
Mets still without DeGrom. That's going to be a big factor. The bat's still not there for the Mets. Obviously, a big factor. They're tied with the Phillies right now, and that may end up hurting them, not having DeGrom and not having that trade for the bat that they were going after. They did go after Baez, but boy, he has not performed yet well for the Mets coming in. Blake Snell, Madison Bumgarner in Arizona tonight. The Padres are in the second wild card spot, 4 games back of the Dodgers and 3 up on the Reds in the wild card. We mentioned that in the last segment. Madison Bumgarner's had 2 good starts in a row, beat the Giants and only lost 2-0 last week in San Diego. And then San Francisco, DeSclafani had a dead arm. He's back off the injured list. Austin Gomber has been the best pitcher for actually the second best pitcher for the Rockies tonight. 210, 7.5. There's that 7.5 total again for San Francisco and Colorado. The weather's actually pretty warm. Might have to take the over tonight in this game. I don't know. We'll have to see it on that. Anything of these 2 games, obviously the Giants with the National League West, Charlie, going at it.
Yeah, all I can do is focus on that 7.5 in Colorado. I mean, are they trying to just suck us right in there?
Yes.
A night game in August in Colorado, give it a 7.5. Come on, they're just screaming, take the over, take the over. I don't know. Watch us late, folks. I got to tell you, I'm like a moth to the flame on that game, and I'm trying to stay away from it. But geez Louise,
Padres have lost 2 in a row. They've got Blake Snell going. Which Blake Snell is going to show up? Bumgarner got the reception in San Francisco. It's scary. 8.5 the total. tonight in Arizona. The ball does fly in Arizona. All right, we move on to the American League games. Cleveland, Detroit, Miguel Cabrera going for number 500. Not really a factor in the American League Central, although I am surprised Detroit did move into second place in the American League Central right now. It was the White Sox, Cleveland, Minnesota obviously had a zach Plesac's having a good year. Alexander, the left-hander. Boston, 6 games back of Tampa Bay, second place in the wild card. They've got Baltimore, Nick Pivetta, Spencer Watkins, 10.5 the total there, 240. High total. Oakland, we said they have trouble in Texas. Cole Irvin, Dane Dunning, 8.5 the total, 161 for Oakland. Tampa Bay, 161. At Minnesota, Shane McClanahan, good young left-hander. Michael Pineda can never figure out his stuff. He's got all the talent, but somehow just didn't put it together. All right, Charlie, the first set of the American League, go.
Well, first of all, Boston needs to do well in Baltimore this weekend. I mean, they've got to climb back into this thing somehow, and they also got to make themselves look better in the wild card. So this is the kind of team that they need to beat up on. And, for Baltimore, this is the kind of series that becomes their World Series. They want to beat up on teams that are doing well. So Baltimore becomes dangerous in these kind of situations. But folks, look at that number. A 240 number, you don't want to get involved in a game like this. Now, I don't know. What's the over and under? 10.5. Oh, stay away from that game. Listen to Uncle Charlie. Stay away from that game. That's got no number that's a winner on that. Okay. So our advice is to tell you where to bet and when not to bet. That game's a loser.
All right. 2 more games, 2 good games late night tonight. 1 in Anaheim, 1 in Seattle. Zach Greinke and Patrick Sandoval goes, the young left-hander for the Astros, 127 and 9. Sandoval, a really good pitcher. That's why the line is not very high. 9 the total there. And then Toronto with Robbie Ray, the All-Star, against Chris Flexen, who's reinvented himself from South Korea. 163 for Toronto, 8.5 the total. Mariners only 4 back in the wild card. 153 at home for the Mariners as an underdog seems to be awfully tempting, Charlie, especially the way the Blue Jays played in Anaheim.
Boy, Vasily, I got to tell you, I agree with you. That just jumps off the page at me going, wow, that might be a home dog choice for me. I like home dogs anyway.
Maybe the under in that game as well, too.
I'm telling you, I'm tempted on that. Check us later. I might jump on that game.
Jack Flaherty back in the rotation for the Cardinals. He's going to solidify them a little bit. They're only 5 back. Kansas City, the show me state. They play the Cardinals tough. They did beat them on that Sunday game last week in St. Louis. This series in Kansas City, Charlie. Real quick on Jack Flaherty.
Hey, I like him, and my lean would be to the Cardinals on that one. No problem.
No doubt about it. All right, last 2 minutes here. Our world famous unsponsored pick segment here of the Make the Money and Run podcast going into the weekend. We'll check us out at 6 Eastern. We'll have weekend picks, and then check us out over the weekend as well. Noon Eastern tomorrow and noon Eastern on Sunday for our Saturday and Sunday picks. Charlie's picks for Friday.
Listen, I'm going Houston over the Angels just because I think the Astros know they've got to win. They've got to keep pace with the A's. So I like them, and the Angels without Ohtani on the mound. I think, okay, there you go. That's all I got to say. And I like St. Louis with Flattery and going against Kansas City because Kansas City's just not that good.
All right, my picks for today: Philadelphia with Wheeler, Desclafani at -210, Seattle at home at +153. Check back, might have the under in that game too. Houston 127 with Greinke against the Angels. Tampa Bay at Minnesota 161 as well. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays at right here on Facebook and YouTube Live as well. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Britannia Arms of Deanza.com is where you can find them as well, too. Thanks to everybody this week. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live and YouTube Live as well. Charlie, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you online. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Friday, August 13th, 2021. Vasu Vada Party, Charlie O here. Have a great weekend. Good luck with all your games. And we stay with us online, and we'll have picks for you every day over the weekend as well, too. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your games. And as always,